Today I'm going to show you everything you need to do to prepare for the release of Sim Update 5, what to do before the Sim Update and what to do afterwards to get the best performance that you can get. And there are certain things you can't do later if you don't get right the first time, so it's very important to do this properly. First and foremost, how do you know when the Sim Update 5 has been released? This is the Microsoft Flight Simulator forums. This is the news and announcement section. I'll put a link in the description. Before you launch your sim over the next couple days, come here and check and see if it's been released. If it's been released, then go on to go through the process that I'm going to show you here shortly. I'm going to go through everything that I do to get ready for a Sim Update release and everything that I do after it's released. All right, first things first, I'm here in Nvidia app and I am going to relaunch it as there is a new version out. Okay, the app is updated now. There are new settings in the app for dynamic multi-frame generation. There's also a couple of things that I noticed, some issues where with displays, with monitors, there are also some issues with people not being able to see certain settings. So some of those things have been addressed in this as well. Next thing I'm going to do is update the driver, and I do it here via the app. It's the easiest way to do it. And you do want to have the latest driver for the best performance. And I know people tend to get stuck on old drivers, but my recommendation is to update drivers unless there's a specific reason not to. There's no reason to be on 566.36 from 2 years ago anymore. And as a matter of fact, being on a driver older than the 572 drivers leaves you exposed to a security flaw. So that's worth noting as well. So we'll go install the driver. I'll go custom installation. The physics hasn't been updated. I do not want the audio driver. That causes problems unless you specifically need it. I would not recommend installing the HD audio driver. All right, the driver is now installed, and normally what I would do now with the new Nvidia app is go here into my global settings, come here to shader cache, and then click here on the three dots and click compile now. But because this is a sim update, I'm going to clear my shader caches. You should always clear and rebuild your shader caches when there is a sim update. If you do not have the Nvidia app, you come here to your desktop, right click, and go into Nvidia control panel and disable your shader cache. If you have the Nvidia app like I do, you just come here to cache size, come up here to disabled, click apply, and then restart your PC. So once you've restarted your PC with the shader cache disabled, we can now clear our shader caches. So if you come to see users, whatever your username is, then AppData, Local, and Nvidia, you should see a DX cache folder. Go into the DX cache folder, select everything, and delete it all. You can also check to make sure that you don't have any residual files laying around. If you go into local low and then Nvidia, I have a DX cache folder that is empty. And if you come into roaming and come down to Nvidia, there's a computer cache file, and I also select all of this and delete all of this. Now there's two different ways to delete your DX12 cache folder. I've created a shortcut, and it's AppData local D3DS cache, and you just select all of this and delete it. The other way to do it is to go to search, type in disk cleanup, and then when disk cleanup comes up, you select DirectX shader cache, and then click OK, and that will clear the DX12 shader cache as well. Before you launch Sim Update 5 for the first time, you want to make sure your community folder is empty. The easiest way to do this is to just create a dummy empty community folder. Now you have to find your community folder in order to be able to do this. I use Add-ons Linker, which makes it very, very easy. I just click right here on Open Community Folder. But what you need to do is find your Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 packages folder, which if you are not using Add-ons Linker, you go to your username, then AppData, local, packages, Microsoft Limitless, which is the way my Flight Sim 24 is named. Yours might be Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, but Microsoft Limitless, LocalCache, packages. Now this is my community folder. I've got a custom community folder set, but this is where you would find yours. So what you would do is rename your community folder. I just put an underscore before the word community, and then I create a new folder and call it community. And then when Flight Sim 24 loads Sim Update 5 for the first time, it's going to load this empty community folder. Now here is mine, and you can see I've got all this stuff in here. So I'm going to rename it, add the dummy community folder, and then you'll see here in add-ons linker, when I click refresh, it's now empty. So now you can launch Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, and it's going to launch with an empty community folder, and that's what you want for the update. This is very important that you do it this way. So here in the sim, there's a couple things that we want to do before we start using it. Number one is clear our rolling cache file. So if you come to settings, online, come down here to rolling cache path. If you click into this path, it'll open an Explorer window and you can see exactly where your rolling cache is. Copy that, write it down however you want to do it, and then close out of the sim, and we're going to delete that file. For most of you, the rolling cache file is going to be found in your AppData, local, packages, Microsoft Limitless, LocalCache folder. I created a unique location for my cache folder, my rolling cache. What you're going to see is this. It's called rolling cache CCC. And what you want to do is simply highlight it and delete it. The sim will rebuild this when it starts again. Next, what we want to do is clear our scenery indexes. Your scenery indexes are found in your AppData, local, packages, Microsoft Limitless, LocalCache, and then you're going to see a folder, scenery indexes. And go in here, and what this is, it simply tells the sim in which order sceneries and such things should be loaded. So what you want to do is just highlight all of this and delete it. Next, we want to re-enable our shader cache. So if you used the NVIDIA control panel to do this, right-click on your desktop, go to NVIDIA control panel. In Manage 3D Settings, you come down here to shader cache size and re-enable it. If you did it via the app like I did, come into the app, go to the graphics settings, global settings, shader cache, and then set it back to what I had is 10 gigabytes. 10 gigabytes is perfectly fine. And then just click apply. Now here's the cool thing about having the NVIDIA app. To rebuild your shader cache, what you would normally do is go into the sim and go on a flight, and it's going to rebuild your shader cache over, let's say, 20 to 30 minutes, and you may experience some stuttering while that happens. With the NVIDIA app now, what you can do is come up here to these three dots, click compile now, and it says here shader compilation in progress, and it's done. That's how long it took. Now you don't have to go through that whole process in the sim and go through stutters for the first 20, 30 minutes of flying. The shader cache has been rebuilt. We're good to go now. Next up is updating our DLSS files. Whenever the sim updates, they downgrade the DLSS file back to the one that they shipped the sim with. I'll put a link in the description if you don't have DLSS Swapper, and there's another neat little trick that we're going to use here in a second to confirm that this has been done correctly. So if you click on Flight Sim 2024, DLSS, click on the drop down, 310.6, and swap. Make sure, I use preset M. That's what I found is the best with ghosting. You can also, a lot of people say still use preset K. I use preset M. If you want to use whatever NVIDIA recommends for your particular setup, just select NVIDIA recommended. I personally like preset M, even though I use DLSS quality, so it's not the one they recommend, but that's the one that's best for me. Then DLSS frame generation, come here, 310.6, click swap. And you also can make sure that you have the latest FSR file. This V4 file is kind of a different story. It's something I was goofing around with, but your latest version for you in DLSS Swapper is going to be 3.1.4. Just highlight that and click swap as well. You can also do this in the Nvidia app. What you want to do is come here to Program Settings and then Microsoft Flight Simulator, DLSS Override Model Presets. Click on this and click on Custom. And the way that I found to be able to use it, to be able to get it to set correctly, is for frame generation, select Recommended, and then for super resolution, preset M, and then click Apply. So whether you do this via DLSS Swapper or via the Nvidia app, the way to check to see whether it's worked properly is to go to DLSS Swapper, come down here to the settings icon, and then if you come down to DLSS developer options, show on-screen indicator, select enabled for all DLSS DLLs, and then reopen the sim. So I know you can't see it very well, but over here in the bottom left-hand corner, maybe if I click here into Fleet, nah, it's not going to make any difference. In the bottom left-hand corner, you can see Render Preset M, DLSS V310.6.0. So now that we've done that, you want to reset your rolling cache file. Now, if you come over here back to Online, and it's going to go back to the default limit of 16. I'm going to leave that right now because I'm going to update mine to 32, but it takes a while. If you want to update the size of it, just come in here and change the size, and it's going to rebuild your rolling cache file. If you are somebody like me who flies in a lot of different places, 32 gigabytes is a good size. If you're somebody who flies largely in the same area, the same region, 16 will do fine for you. There's no reason really to go bigger than 32 gigabytes. So once you set your rolling cache size, it's going to update that. Now we'll take a look at some of the new things for Sim Update 5. If you come here into the graphics settings and you come down to your global rendering quality and you click on that, you will notice now that a new window has opened. Instead of it being a drop down now, all the graphics settings and all this stuff, these are all now submenus, which I find pointless and actually rather annoying, rather than just a drop down. But in theory, your settings should be the same, but I would go through them and make sure. I would somehow either take pictures of your settings before you update the sim and then come back in here and make sure nothing has changed. And I would recommend doing the same thing for controls. Throughout the beta, there have people who, when they update from one beta version to another, have found that control settings either get changed or added, that sort of thing. Now, the last few things we want to do just to clean up here, come back into DLSS Swapper, come down to the DLSS developer options, and then set the show on-screen indicator to none. That'll get rid of that little indication on the lower left that tells you which DLSS version you have. Then you want to come back to your packages folder. Now, the dummy folder, remember, is the one that says community, so just delete that file. And then your _community folder, you just want to rename back to community. Of course, I have a custom path. So if I delete my community folder, rename this folder, and if I go back in here, you can see I've got all of my stuff in here. So now we're all back to our regular community folder, and you want to do it in this order to make sure that you've restarted the sim or updated the sim without all of your add-ons. And then once you close out of the sim, you can add your add-ons back in, and then you're good to go. So talking about Sim Update 5 performance is very good. One of the things that you'll notice immediately is that the panning has gotten much, much smoother. This used to be jittery, kind of stuttery for a lot of people. That has been smoothed out. This really is a lot of stability and, yes, performance updates. One of the things that has gotten some attention is the WASM crashes of the stock AnyBuilds aircraft. I have not tested them, but in the latest version of the beta, apparently they have pretty much fixed that issue, which is really wonderful. Now, the other thing, of course, that's coming is the AAU 4, I think it is, or 5. It's the, from working title, the updates to a lot of the default avionics, which, are rather advanced avionics, and also some of the specific aircraft, including the ATR 7242 series, which I am incredibly excited about and I'm very much looking forward to. Those were not previewed in the beta, so we're gonna see what they are like once this comes out. But overall performance in the beta has been fantastic. Stability has been very, very good. This has really been one of the most boring betas that I've been involved in. A lot of the there were some VR issues with click spots not working, and hopefully those things get fixed before the final release, which is not out yet as of the making of this video. So that's just about it. Hopefully I didn't forget anything. And this, if you follow this should give you really, really good performance. Make sure that you understand, unless you use the Nvidia app with the shader cache rebuild option, that when you come into the sim, the first half an hour or so of flying, you are going to see some stuttering in all likelihood, as the shader caches are rebuilt, but that should smooth out, and you should get really, really good performance. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know in the comments section below. I hope everybody is doing well, and we'll talk soon.